Guest, the totally professional podcast. I'm your host, Sonny, and we've got Eat Your Meats, HylianPickles, and Snazzy. You guys do your best sign. Is it gang sign? Is that allowed?
Gang signs?
No.
Pass.
Pass.
Hard pass.
I live in New York. That's too dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I live in California. That's also dangerous. So. Yeah. How you guys doing? Thank you for joining. It's been a while.
I'm tired. I have to get up in a few hours to get on a plane. That's gonna be fun.
Oh, where are you going?
A place.
Yeah.
I'm not disclosing right now.
Yeah, don't disclose.
I'll tell you in DMs.
Are you taking a break from streaming to get on a plane?
Wait a minute.
Topical.
That implies that I haven't already been on a break from streaming, right? Like,
I don't know. You've been not on a break compared to some of us.
I mean, listen, hey. Sometimes you just
I've
gotta.
been streaming.
Sometimes you just gotta dial it back a bit to prevent burnout. That's all it is. Tip for all you streamers out there. Yeah. Don't burn yourself out.
Hiatuses are like, they're hard. I think they're like, they come with their own like weird little mental wrestling match or something. Oh, there's our raid from Artie.
Oh, hello.
Artie's bringing his crew in.
Hello.
So there's, hey Artie, he knows all about.
Friends.
I'm sure you guys are gonna have something to share with today's topic. One of you guys is still echoing. We're gonna have to fix that. I think it is you, Snazzy. I don't know what's going on. We'll work on it when you have time when you get back.
I have no idea why that would be.
Yeah.
I got nothing for you.
Either. You don't have speakers on, right?
No.
No.
I mean, hold on. No.
Check.
No,
test.
Yeah.
I don't hear an echo.
I tried.
It's so faint, but it is there. Yeah.
Nobody else hears it.
It's not all the time.
Driving him crazy.
Well, because it's my voice, so when I hear it, I'm like, oh shoot, there's like an echo there. So, yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the point is, I just heard it. Yep.
Just now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And your
just now.
Yeah. It's very.
I got
faint.
nothing.
It's very faint.
I got nothing.
I didn't change anything. Don't listen to me.
No, it might actually just be your one of your soundboard things. You know those little red knobs? Make sure all of them except for the one on your mic is turned to the left on the channels, like hardcore to the left. Because if it's up like a hair, it will like feed it. So.
I know you didn't tell me to do that, but I did it anyways.
Yeah. You all have the same soundboard. So.
They are all set in the right position.
You know what can happen too is they can get dusty and then like be creating a connection. So you may just want to wiggle the ones.
Wiggle? I'm gonna wiggle them.
Yeah.
I'm wiggling them right now.
Is Pickles frozen or just excessively stoic? I can't tell.
He froze. He froze.
I
there we go.
I fixed it.
You fixed it.
So
we're just having an unhinged night, I guess. This is just
fine.
what's
Wait a
happening.
minute.
This is how
some
live
time
streams go.
off.
I was gonna say,
True.
like, wait a minute. This podcast is never not unhinged.
We're somewhat hinged.
True.
Today we're just like, no.
Somewhat hinged. I like that. That's gonna be my descriptor for everything from now on.
Partially hinged.
Some partially hinged.
This is what happens when you take a break. Yeah. We probably, when we take longer breaks, we should meet a little bit earlier and work out all the kinks before we go. But that's not how we roll.
This is entertainment.
Yeah,
What are you
true.
talking about?
Is there a point at which, like, the bell curve, like, if you take a long enough break, that you just have to do, like, a test stream with nobody watching just to remember what to do?
I think so.
Is there-
I
is
don't
there,
know.
like,
Maybe.
So far?
That might be a good idea.
We need to stream to the dummy account and just have a stream that nobody
Sometimes I just stream to my dummy account so I don't have to worry about the pressures of streaming and nobody knows. Nobody knows I'm live.
You know, we're on a podcast. We could just pre-record. Like, that's actually a thing we can do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the difference of that would be. Just like we lose the chat.
I'm saying if we're so out of practice.
Say hi to Artie after he raids. That's
well,
just...
I'm saying if we're so out of practice, we literally record it, hate ourselves, delete it, and then do it live and do it right.
Well, that's
okay.
the challenge with recording things is I'm never satisfied. But if you're doing it live, you can't undo the stupid.
Listen, that's why I can't do YouTube because I would never record anything. I would record it, delete, and eventually just give up. So,
whenever I have to record something, it's about 30 takes of 20 seconds of me talking and then cursing because I didn't like what I said.
your partner have to come in with like one of those little like movie like scene.
A
things,
blooper reel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so speaking of hiatuses, I think there's this difficulty that comes up with being a streamer. It's kind of like when you need to go to the gym and you stopped going for a while. It's like hard to start again, or a diet. If you fall off the wagon, it's hard to get back on again for a lot of people. I think streaming kind of has that too. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Is that something that is happening quite often that you see in the streaming pace, or for you guys personally? Actually, have you guys taken a break and been like, I gotta start streaming again, and like it's kind of like a thing you wrestle with?
I stopped exercising a little bit ago, and man, getting back into that's hard. So yes, I agree. But no, whenever I have to take a weekend off or whatever for whatever reason, like I have an event or something. Yeah, it's always weird, even just missing a week, just because you settle into a routine, right? So like when that routine gets jumbled a bit, it definitely throws you off the next time you're trying. But I don't think I've taken a long enough hiatus to be like, oh yeah, no, it's really hard. I mean, imagine if I stopped for a few months, I would come back to just be a real train wreck and just not do anything, right?
I think the biggest fear whenever, because life's been really busy. I've got family, full-time job plus a part-time job, plus streaming. But I feel like really getting back into it, if I just, it's like jumping off a plane, right? You just got to take that first step. That's the hardest part for sure. But there's always a fear that I'll stream after not streaming for a week or two and like no one will show up. That's the only thing that actually kind of makes me nervous when I take a break and come back, is like, because there's this dichotomy of a lot of times if you have a good community and you take a break for a month, 2 months, you actually get more hype when you come back. But I feel like there's diminishing returns, right? There's like a critical mass for how many times that's doable before people are like, okay, and they don't necessarily come back. And I'm always afraid I've hit that like inconsistency critical mass tipping point where people are like, no, screw her, I'm done. Sort of thing, and just no one comes.
It's like, 3 weeks gone by, time for another meat hiatus.
Done. Exactly.
I know.
I don't know if that's true though. I mean, maybe. I mean, I'm sure. I guess if it happens
well,
often enough. But
nothing is true. Everything's just kind of in our heads. That's the problem, right?
You got a point.
It's not. I think there's people out there that can like take a break and come back, and they're just like complete psychopath, and nothing bothers them, right? Like it's just like they're not bothered at all. They're just like, I'm back, and the rest of us have. Some people are just incredibly insecure, and they're like, if I go back, no one will like me, and or you just wrestle with things in your head, like, oh, is it even worth streaming? I don't know. I spent all this time streaming, and only 10, 15 people care. And you just like always you find reasons. It's so easy to find reasons. I don't know why humans are so negative. It's some psychological thing, but we always find a reason to just say no to everything instead of trying to find a good reason to say yes. This is like core to a lot of the discussions we've had on this podcast, where we're get out of your own way.
I will say though that if you're coming up on a point where you're exhausted and you need to take a break, say yes to breaks. Like don't be afraid to be like, I need to scale back.
That's the thing.
That's to me, because I've actually recently done that where I scaled back from 4-day streaming to 3, planned days, and then whatever happens afterwards. But like, yeah, there's that little mental block of like, I'm ditching a day and there's gonna be less, hype and less just output, right? But at the same time, like if you're tired and you can't handle the volume at which you stream at, right? That's going to degrade the quality of your stream. If you're streaming day in and day out and it's just you're exhausted, it's going to show. Like that's really difficult to hide.
It's like
on stream.
It's almost like it's a battle both ways. While you're live, you might feel like you should be taking a break. Right? And you're like, if I take a break, I'm going to screw my channel, and nobody's going to come back if I take a break. And there's all this like weird pressure to not stop streaming, even when you're live, like during a stream, right? Like somebody raids you and you're like, now I can't stop for another hour. Like,
no, never.
I've never had that problem. No, why would you say that?
I don't know how it's. I think this is like new to the human, right? Like people are not used to having to deal with this, and I'm afraid it kind of could build up over time. And people need to kind of like relax about it. I don't know how to relax. What do you guys feel like you figured out a good way to relax about these pressures, being live, not being live?
Yeah, it's called Gunpla. That's why I do it every Saturday. No,
Skyrim?
seriously, it's
Hobby?
Skyrim,
Like
yeah,
a
no,
hobby?
hobbies, but even more than hobbies, like sometimes you just need to stream something silly that you literally you don't have to think about, and you don't have to worry about how it's going to perform, and you don't have to worry about who's going to show up or how it's going to look on stream. Like
Stream for the
fire
sake
up,
of streaming.
yeah, fire up like Stardew Valley or something, and just like mess around with chat, like and shoot the breeze while you're playing Stardew or something, or Skyrim or what insert favorite game or whatever. Like absolutely, like sometimes you just need to be silly on camera. Break the seriousness.
Yeah. The
That's my
weird
personal opinion.
there's like a weird like pressure to be consistent about everything that you do with like what day, what time, and then how long you stream and all this stuff. That is like one part of the discussion, but the other part is like what happens if you do take a break? How do you get back into it? You guys have all taken breaks, right? Like
I mean, not intentionally. They just kind of
I was
organically
gonna say,
happened for me.
Accidentally.
Well, I took
took breaks,
like
too.
8 months off last year.
Yeah, that's
Like
more
I
than me.
just stopped for a while just because real life was happening, and it was. I mean, streaming was just like one of the first things to go during that period because I don't know. There is a lot of pressure to stream for the sake of streaming because if you're not doing stuff and you're not growing, you feel like you're shrinking, and I just stopped caring so much about that.
yeah, I think that's the first step actually to all of that solves every problem. Just don't care.
The secret to success is apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it kind of creates its own problem, though, because if you don't care enough, then you don't create.
Then you don't go back to streaming?
Yeah, exactly. So like there's a balance that I'm still struggling with of like I want to like of caring and like putting effort into it and wanting to do a good job and improving stuff, but also not placing like a do or die kind of situation or placing too much of your self-worth into it. There's a balance there because if you don't care at all,
You kind of have to care.
yeah, you have to
have to
care
care
at
a little
least a
bit, yeah.
little bit. It's finding the right like proportion of care to not care.
Yeah.
Well, I changed
That
my
works.
priorities in streaming because it used to be like trying to do the right things to meet the right people to maybe grow and do whatever. And I just kind of changed it to just like a place to hang out with the people I enjoy hanging out with. Like it's less so of like I'm streaming for my sake and more so I'm streaming to just like have an open chat room with some friends. Kind of like sitting on Discord
Yeah.
and just anybody can pop in and pop out and say hey.
Yeah,
I
no,
treat it a lot more
absolutely.
casually now. So the pressure of needing to be on to be successful is different because now success for me is just that people are having a good time,
So
however many people are there.
some of the things I wanted to open up this conversation with was actually not so much about taking a break, but we can circle back to my actual opener, which is, do you guys feel like streaming with the emphasis of being a full-time streamer is like a realistic thing these days?
Not on Twitch.
How big is your savings?
It can be, I guess, but
Well, after streaming full-time for a couple of years, it's pretty much gone. So
I mean, so what I will say, like obviously there's people who do it streaming for a living, right? There's people who for whom this is a primary job and they must make money, right? Since they're
I don't
still doing
know.
it.
Even
But,
like the people that we could point to that we would say are full-time streamers, but that's not their primary source of income. It's like a secondary source of income.
Well, but that was going to be what I was going to expand on. Is like streaming is rarely the only thing you do as a streamer. Like when you get to a certain
Yeah.
size, right? You start getting other opportunities that are related to your stream,
Yeah.
peripheral to your stream, maybe, but not the stream itself, right? And sometimes the stream helps, and augments those, and sometimes you peel off in a different direction. And it's not unheard of for streamers to quit streaming and focus on other endeavors that they've built up with the stream, right?
Right.
So realistically, I don't think streaming by itself, I don't think full time is plausible. But
You got to be a special person to pull that off.
maybe you have to be somebody really entertaining.
And even then, it's still like a
and
matter
even
of
then
luck.
it's hard, right?
Yeah, there's still a measurement of.
What I think
Well, you
stream
also
should
have
be
to-
is stream should be a tool. Your stream should be a tool to present you to the world, so that you can then garner other opportunities to do stuff in the entertainment industry. Because that's really what you are at the end. Right? If you're doing streaming full time, you are an entertainer. That's baseline what you are.
So either it's a tool in your toolkit, or it's just something you do because you like it. Is that kind of
You have
what we're
to-
saying?
Yeah, like using streaming as a tool to leverage other opportunities, because there's this myth of the content creator that in order to diversify your income is to like start doing TikTok to push people back to Twitch, start doing YouTube to push people back to Twitch. That's not diversifying your income. That's just putting
No.
more work to for self-promotion.
True.
Like diversifying your income is like, yeah, you stream on Twitch and that has afforded you the opportunity to like work on art for people or to like record videos for companies and other stuff like that. Like you have to find those opportunities and leverage it in the right times to make it happen financially.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But just doing streaming, I don't think is realistic for most people on the platform.
Yeah.
I
So
would say, think of your stream as a big advert. It's an advert for you. It's
a
an ad
community
building
for
tool.
you.
yeah, it's
community building tool. Yeah.
yeah, it's a place to execute like ideas and things with people, but like starting a fresh stream and not really that being your plan. I'm going to stream. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a live streamer and I'm just going to push the go live button and stream. I don't know.
No,
that's not really a plan these days, is it?
Nope,
No.
not really.
That's the same. I mean, you being in California probably know this. That's the same way that when an actor is struggling and they move to California thinking they'll get big in 2 months or whatever. Like that's just it's cool if it happens. Yeah, I'm happy for you. I'm hoping you get it, but like, they're just turning on a camera isn't enough anymore. If it ever was, right? If it ever was. So I would say treat your stream both as a tool and a place where you could test things and try things out. And also, sometimes, yes, as an income stream for a certain level of streamer and for a certain period in your career, yeah, streaming might be the thing that pays the bills. So,
True.
but I don't think you can sustain it indefinitely. Is what I'm saying.
I don't know a lot of people who are. I know a lot of people are streaming, but I don't know a lot of people who are paying their bills with it. Not
There's-
personally.
I would say, yeah, definitely not personally, and probably, yeah, it's we're talking
Whenever-
literally the
Whenever I get
1%,
my $50 payout from Twitch, I'm like, okay, cool. Now I can buy a Steam
Yeah.
game.
a Steam game,
a singular game.
right?
But it also depends, like we talk about diversifying your income, even on stream. There's ways to do that, right? There's you have subs, you have bits, you have donos.
Yeah,
And
let's talk
depending
about
on,
that. That's a
what
good.
depending on what you like emphasize to your community is going to affect how much income you get, right? Because donos are generally less, there's less taken out, right? You get more of that money versus a sub where Twitch takes half. So obviously, there's if you have a large percentage of your income coming from donos, then yeah, it's feasible that you might be able to pay your bills with it. But that also it also depends on where you live, right? For somebody like me who lives in New York City, which is an expensive town, right? There's no way streaming would hold up for that. But if you live somewhere where, maybe the house you live in is paid off, or, maybe you have a lot of roommates and your rent's dirt cheap, yeah, maybe you could do it. It all depends.
What other ways can we like think about that would help a streamer be a streamer, but like have other sources of income besides? I mean, obviously there's the obvious, get a job,
Get a
Dang
job,
it, you took
hippie.
my answer.
get a
Get a job.
job,
Get a job, hippie.
Get
Yeah,
another
like-
job.
get another job. Yeah. Are there any other side gig like is it all side gigs or is it getting a job like the only real sustainable?
I mean, it's definitely the most sustainable.
Yes, the gig economy is always problematic, but anytime
On its own,
if
right?
this is if this is the space, the type of space, streaming adjacent, whatever that you're trying to occupy, it's a gig economy, right?
Yeah.
And there are some wonderful positives to a gig economy, but in general, it's very difficult to even predict what kind of income unless you have a contract that is very explicit, which doesn't happen very often. You know, you really are at the mercy of the whims of people who throw money at you, right? And there's a level of uncertainty that I know some people will like thrive on and like really enjoy. I'm not one of those people. Like,
Yeah.
I'm too anxious. So if you're someone who's anxious about plans and about money and about stability, this space is not the space that you can occupy solely, right? Because it is just such an uncertain. You say the wrong thing and you could be out of all of your contracts, right? And I'm not saying that's something that shouldn't happen necessarily, but
Especially in
it's just a
today's
thing that can happen.
climate, right?
You know, you're just not the thing anymore, and that can happen on the drop of a dime. So the uncertainty is a lot more certain than in a lot of other professions.
What I would say is though, streaming though, again, being a tool is a great way to work certain things. For example, right? Like if your goal is to be in the entertainment industry, for example, right? Let's say maybe you have a goal that you want to do voiceover work, right? You want to be a voice actor. That's your thing, right? Being on stream is a great way to practice that. You know, pop in a game where you have to do a lot of reading for characters. You can literally practice on stream and get live reactions to what you're doing, right?
But I would also say, though, if you think about the voice acting world, there's really like 30 of them. Right? Now, if you think about all the video games, it's the same 15 people. All the anime,
Well-
it's the same 6 people.
Be the 31st. Be the 31st.
I think
you
we-
That's
Well,
all I'm
the
saying.
way
it's the
to-
same group of
you
people that
miss
just rotate through.
100% of the shots you don't take.
Okay,
No,
Wayne
the
Gretzky.
actual like solution to that though is like there are 30 people at the top level. Like you're not going to
Yep.
be Nolan North and Troy Baker out the gate.
Oh, yeah.
But there
No.
are countless amounts of indie games that need voice work for cheap. And if you're practicing voice acting on stream, trying to get into voice acting, and they happen to just be there that day and be like, I want you. Can you take $15? And be like, yeah.
Not even
Like,
if they happen to be there.
that'll put your foot
That's
in the door
not really
in that
a
industry.
Yeah.
good way to
Take,
support
take your
streaming,
clips.
but
Take your clips. Make a reel. Send it to
Oh,
an
yeah.
indie company and be like, hey, I know you have a game coming up. Here's
It's
my audition reel.
There-
Which
you
It's
goes
know,
about
to your
supporting
stream, right?
streaming. It's about having like streaming support you.
So as someone who worked in a gig economy before like the internet was quite as huge, it is an interesting world though. And it's a very difficult world to kind of break into. And one of the challenges, and I anticipated, I'm not as big into some of the spaces nowadays in entertainment, but we almost undercut each other. So to your point, people will literally just offer to do jobs for pennies on the dollar, right? And it undercuts the financial viability of the job in and of itself, right? So like modeling, for example, someone's just like, oh, you're a good photographer, totally just take my picture. Or, oh, you have a product, I will model for you for exposure. Right.
Yeah,
And then
exposure,
it starts to diminish the value of the professional. And there's some big kind of challenges there too that you really have to keep in check to some degree. Would I be willing to do a voiceover if I thought it was really cool for free? Yes, but would I actually do one because I respect the economy of it and realize that I could be stealing someone's livelihood by doing that for free? That's something to think about,
It's-
or
it's a-
very cheap.
There's
Well, I think
there's
you
the
have to
other.
you have to start somewhere, right? Like you're not like you said, you're not going to be Nolan North right off the bat. You're not going to be Troy Baker
I think
off the
Meats
bat.
Meats is alluding to something a little bit different because I personally have experience with this in the video production space because I used to make videos for
Oh.
companies in San Diego and North County, San Diego area in California, and there's a lot of businesses out here, but doing business is incredibly expensive. So when I knock on the door and I say, "Hey, do you need a YouTube video?" They go, "Yeah, but we don't have a budget for that."
Yeah.
And even if I bring it down to an affordable level, right? Like something that's unreasonably cheap, I'll make a little bit of money. I should be making probably 5 times the amount that I'm offering. They'll still say, I don't know, and 9 times out of 10 say we really just can't afford it right now, even when it's like super affordable for them. And then on top of that, you have a million other people around you that all have a cell phone or a DSLR and didn't go to school for production but feel like they could do it because they have an iMac and they're the son of a friend who owns the company and they'll come in and just do it because they'll do it for free. And they may even have a better camera. I've had to compete with like 18-year-old kids who had a better camera than me, but no skill. Right? They didn't know how to do like 90% of what I was offering the clients, but they could come in and shoot like a quick 30-second commercial with no speaking, no voiceover, just music and fast cuts. And the client would feel like, oh, well, I can just do that and get it for free. We'll just use that. That'll be our YouTube video. And
Well, that's one of the things about the gig economy, right? It's who you know, it's your connections, right? That's why.
yeah,
That's why agents exist for actors, right? It's who you know.
True.
So
yeah.
being the son of somebody who owns the company, yeah, that's a great way to get a start because you already have your foot in the door. So
Yeah, it's
But we kind of created that sort of it's like the middle has been removed, right?
Yeah.
In the sense of in so many of these one-off gig industries, either you're doing it for free or you're doing it for millions. And
Yeah.
there's a really, really difficult space to break through from the bottom to the top. And that's a challenge because you're right. Anyone with a low budget will be like, well, Joey's cousin will do it for $5 an hour. Why would I pay you 50?
Right.
So it diminishes it because they don't have, the level of quality that they're looking for might be a fairly low floor.
It's even hard up at in commercial levels. Like I had the city of Carlsbad offered me a job, and for video production, I had to bring all my own equipment. I had to bring everything, cameras, like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment that I had to invest in order to make these interviews happen. Microphones, lights, everything, right? Professional equipment. They wanted to pay me $12 an hour. I was making $18 an hour watching kids after school, like in a school program, like on the school property. Like the parent waiting for the parents to come pick them up, kind of thing. Elementary school kids. Like I had a stable job that required no education, no equipment, no professional connections or anything, that paid a lot more than what I was being offered for a bachelor's degree and $20,000 worth of equipment that I had to invest in.
But there's no glamour in watching children.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
no, there isn't, right?
I
But-
told her, no, I need like $18 an hour. She said, I would pay somebody that with like 20 years of experience. And I was like, whoa.
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about, though. Like it's being in the gig industry, right? It's you keep trying until you break into that sweet spot, right, where you find a gig that actually does pay, right? But that could take a while, right? So streaming can definitely be like a filler, like in between. But again, as we've established, yeah, it's not gonna, it can't be the only thing, unless your expenses are somehow so astronomically low that you can get away with basically making a couple dollars per hour and being able to survive off of that. I mean, kudos to you. You're probably eating cardboard and cereal, but
It's going to cost
kudos
you
to
more
nonetheless.
than you'll make. I don't know. I just think it's very difficult to rely on the gig economy for work. these days.
Oh, absolutely. Was that never? I don't think that was ever like not the case, right? Like you just go back to like traditional acting and stuff, right?
20, 30 years ago, it was much more manageable because you kind of created a local influence.
Yeah.
You know, like you could be a local theater actor that, you know, played, you know, a set on an acoustic live on the weekends or something. You know, it was a lot more siloed, I think. And now today, instead of being like, well, we know a guy, he'll do it for $20. Now you just post something on Facebook or Twitter or the internet, and you'll have someone that'll undercut the well-known $20, $30 an hour guy.
And in some spaces, you have other countries undercutting you.
Sure, yeah.
Right, yeah, right. Like outsource. People are like, oh, well, I can make graphics, and I live in, you know, the middle of a country that $5 pays for a month's worth of groceries. So they can take $5 and make a living, and you can't because you live in California or New York.
I mean,
I mean, think before the time of you know, GPSs and cell phones. Back then, your reach was significantly smaller, so you would be able to carve a niche much more effectively than you can today. Because everyone can put their finger in the pie, if you will, you know, like, I can give it a job because I can try it, you know, I can busk, I can do the X, Y, Z. And it's a lot more accessible, which is wonderful, but that creates more competition. So there's more competition for the jobs than the demand for them. And that creates a deflation of the value of those activities because lots of people want to do it, and they can actually find the people that want them to do it much more easily.
I mean, speaking of somebody who's like, you know, I've had a lot of friends in the music industry for like the last 20 years, and yeah, like if you're a small band that nobody knows, yeah, you're not gonna get top dollar playing at a club.
No,
you're gonna get pennies on the dollar for,
or you're gonna be paying for it.
Or you're gonna be paying for it for exposure.
I mean, who's selling CDs at their concerts anymore? Right? Someone's just gonna hop on at Spotify or YouTube, and you're gonna get micro value out of those plays.
You hand out a card with your Bandcamp on it or whatever, you know, or SoundCloud or whatever, and you're good. Why would you need a physical CD anymore? Who does that?
Yeah,
weirdos, I guess.
But you used to have to buy the whole CD, even if you liked one dang song, right?
Yeah,
you'd spend
true.
the $15-20 for the full CD because you liked one song.
That's like the dark ages of music, right? Where, oh my God, I like this one song, but I have to buy an entire cassette.
It was 20 years ago.
I have to buy an entire cassette or a CD. Who remembers cassettes?
It's been like this for a
even
long
on
time.
iTunes.
Yeah.
On iTunes, it was easier just to buy a whole album than individual songs.
Oh, yeah, because it was like 99 cents for a song, but you could get 15 songs for like $8.
Yeah.
So you just buy the whole album.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's incentivizing you, right, to buy the album rather than.
Yes, we are elder millennials yelling at us. Stop it. Back in my day, you could make a dollar.
No, listen, I'm old enough to remember cassettes. Okay, I've bought a few. Trust me, it's rough. I'm glad those days are behind us. It's fine.
Oh man. Yeah, I think it's the climate it's been tough for a while because even back when I was in bands, you know, most of the venues were like, okay, you can come play, but you got to sell like 50 tickets. And I'm like, we don't have 50 fans.
We don't have 50 people show up to this. Like,
I don't even know 50 people. Like, you want us to sell 50 tickets? Like my parents aren't coming, so there's no way that's gonna happen, right? Yeah.
But I'm also like, you know, like I've literally seen bands at the end of the night, you know, even if they open up for somebody who's maybe a little bit bigger, and you know, there's that sad scene at the end of the night where the entire band is at the van splitting the $20 that the venue deemed they were worth, you know. So
we ended up
like
just
that
putting on our
in
own
a lot
shows
of professions.
most of the time.
Yeah.
We would find churches or venues that would take us, and we'd be like, "I'll bring the bands. Just let us play." And we'd just put on our own shows.
the hope is that somebody will see it, right, and be like, "Hey, here's an opportunity to get a little bigger," right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what streaming is as well in a lot of ways. Back to bring it back around to streaming, streaming is playing the club, right? Streaming is selling the 50 tickets to
playing boomers
to play in some really terrible bar where nobody pays attention to you, but you're busking anyway because it's your passion. So
Right. And it's like with that hope that that one person that maybe is, has connections or is interested, just happens to be there. Right.
Right,
And I
or you
think
play with
it's
another
kind of,
band or something.
yeah, I think it's kind of moved into this space. So the challenge is it's such a larger number, right? It's such a macrocosm
Yeah.
of that previous feeling. But that's one of the beautiful things about streaming, right? Is that joy of expressing yourself, being creative in a platform that's really accessible in a lot of ways, with maybe a little bit of that hope, right? That you'll hit something, you'll go viral, you'll get connected with someone really big. And I think that's really that
you,
cautious
you'll
optimism
you'll find your
is,
wealthy patron. Your
yeah, no,
patron willing to
I
dole it
really
out.
think I really think if people are able to approach streaming with cautious optimism, with the joy of the expression, with the enjoyment of the actual process, the way we did back in the day, I think I think the joy of streaming will come back naturally, right? If that's the reason why you're doing it, it was that cautious hope, but still knowing that you're there for the process, you're there for the enjoyment of the experience because it's such a wonderful experience that's so difficult to have outside of streaming now. Then it's great, and sometimes you got to take a semester off, or you got life gets in the way, and it has to move aside for a little bit. But you can always come back to it with that hope of, hey, this might be the day that things go really cool. If it's not, at least I get a chance to express myself and enjoy the process, enjoy the experience versus having your eye on this prize that, frankly, in most cases is really difficult to attain.
And like also honestly, even if you don't, right? Let's say you take a hiatus and you realize like, oh, I'm just not going to come back, right? It's not for me. You realize something. You've gained
True.
knowledge there that
Yeah.
maybe streaming wasn't the thing for you, right?
That's kind of where I'm
and
at.
and you wouldn't be able to see it otherwise until you went through that process, until you took that break, and you now see with clearer head, right? You see like, oh, maybe streaming is not what I wanted to do. Hey, maybe I want to do this other thing instead. There's no shame in doing that,
Or
which
mindlessly
is
streaming. Like a lot of people just stream and
why. Well, and
they
this
just
is why
keep
like
streaming and there's no like
well,
substance.
we've said this on this podcast before, and this is something I tell people who want to get into streaming. Like that's why I don't like load up front. Like don't buy all the fancy equipment up front. Like streaming is this like really cool thing, like where a lot of other gig kind of settings aren't capable of. Is that you don't need a whole lot to stream. You don't like if you're a video editor, right? You need cameras, you need all this other fancy stuff. As a streamer, a webcam and a microphone will do you, right? You don't need to buy the super fancy soundboard. Save that for later when you are sure streaming is something that you want to do.
You never need to buy the super fancy soundboard.
Well, you
You
never
always
need to,
get
but
away with the cheaper
You
one.
can always be cheap. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because one of the beauties of streaming is the accessibility, right?
Yep.
So we no longer have to move to Nashville to be a country star sort of thing, right? You don't have to fly to California and get a waitressing job or waitering or whatever to try to make your break. You can actually just live your life
Yeah.
and try to do the thing where historically you really kind of had to uproot all aspects of your life in order to truly pursue that greater thing, which I think is great. I think it's great.
And even that, like, that's relatively a recent thing, right? I mean, back in the day, I mean, the older days, right? Before the advent of modern media, like think of like the old sculptors and painters, right? They would literally dedicate their entire lives on a gamble that this thing would work out. So,
Yeah.
like,
Well, and a lot
we-
of them didn't
you know,
even find fame and fortune until they were dead.
dead, yeah, of course.
You know, so
H.P.
we live in
Lovecraft
great-
is a big example of this. Like, right? Wrote a whole bunch of stuff, super popular now, died penniless. You know what I
Well,
mean? So,
yeah. Great stuff. Person aside.
Person
For some
aside,
of the- Van Gogh, I believe, also died
Yeah.
fairly
Or
impoverished.
Mhm.
So like people who've posthumously become really famous, right? And that still kind of happens today, but it's much less likely to. We live much more in the moment. You know, so there's a lot of really beautiful things about what kind of access and ability that we have. Anyone can do it now, pretty much. If you have the electricity, you know, and an internet
The
connection,
internet connection, yeah.
which they're working towards making a utility essentially for everybody. Everyone has it's a world of opportunity now. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's unique to streaming in a lot of ways. The other professions are catching up to that, but streaming really like embraced that with its full chest about just being able to anyone can do it, right? Like as long you have an internet connection and you know how to operate a computer with at least some competency, boom, you can stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also the kind of the double-edged sword to this, though, is a lot of people
Yep.
don't understand their own like level of competency with this stuff. And
Sonny, bringing it back down. Geez.
Bringing it.
We're trying
Well,
to be
I'm
like
the one
Sonny.
who's getting messages from
physical.
people who are like, my shit's broken," and I'm like, well,
That was
did you
me.
Google it before you asked me? And they're like,
You know
That
what?
was
I don't
that
know
was
how
me
to
like
do it.
that was me like
Sir.
2 nights ago. Like, hey, Sonny, everything's broken.
You're
My
allowed.
audio's
You're
crap."
allowed to. Yeah, but there's a difference. There's a difference.
You know?
We have a business relationship. You're allowed to ask me. Whereas,
But I think it's also the other edge, maybe the third edge. Is this like a triple-edged sword? The third edge of that is like because it's so accessible, it also floods the market, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone can stream, that means anyone can, which means you are if streaming is your full-time gig, you are then competing, whether you like it or not. You are competing for eyeballs, for view time. Yeah,
yeah.
for viewers.
Well, that's why we talked about Kick last week, because we need to have more spaces online where this kind of stuff works.
I like how you said last week as if we
Or last
truly
podcast. Yeah.
He's back, baby.
Last week.
He's so into this. He
The
thinks
other
he
day.
podcasted
Yeah,
last
last
week.
week.
Yeah, recently.
Last podcast.
Last time, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two pieces to that, right? And it depends on what kind of colored glasses I wear that day, right? Whether they're rose or blood or whatever. With accessibility comes that division, right? Speaking back to the point earlier of we got gigs that have become so demonetized, and then the big money makers are still making big money. But I guess that's the cost of everyone having a chance to have a stage. I don't know if it's worth it necessarily, but I mean, if you want to make a dumpster fire and see what happens, then if it makes you happy, more power to you.
Yeah, it's kind of
then-
like with America's Got Talent and those kinds of shows where there's only like really one winner and like a bunch of train wrecks. But
And-
like
and
that's all
pretty s-
entertainment.
And pretty soon you'll have to compete with AI, so that'll be
Oh
fun.
yeah, that's a whole other
Don't
thing.
even.
I don't even know how to broach.
Don't
that topic.
manifest this in my plane.
I really don't even know how to broach that topic for streaming and.
I
Streaming,
don't
'cause
think
it's-
anybody does. That's the issue. No one
It's-
does.
It's so huge and just it's either going to just completely destroy everything and change everything, or be like its own dumpster fire. Which right now it's very entertaining on its own.
I mean, just watching AI make pictures of people eating pizza
Or
and spaghetti
videos?
and, like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
word-
Oh my goodness.
Like an entire commercial. Yeah. Yeah. And
I think we're safe for at least a few years. Yeah, it's hasn't
I
quite
mean,
caught
I
up.
don't
I
know
would say
that
that's not
stuff's
some-
great.
Yeah, no, but it's entertaining for a completely different reason, right?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The memes are funny.
It's like watching a bad
The
movie
memes.
because it's bad. Right.
I think my favorite one recently was AI making a lava eating contest.
I didn't see that. So.
Pictures from a lava eating. I'd look it up. It's horrific.
Oh, goodness.
We don't have to make our own 2 girls 1 cup kind of situation. Excuse me.
Oh,
But AI is just gonna do it for us.
AI
for you.
girl.
oh god.
Yeah.
Oh god.
I did it. I'm
The,
sorry.
the wondrous future of AI.
Don't Google children. Don't.
No,
I actually
don't.
have
don't
never
talk
seen
to.
it.
First of all, don't talk
Don't.
to children on this show.
Don't.
Let's,
Don't.
there are no
Yeah.
children listening
Just
to
in
this,
case.
thankfully. Yeah.
Just
Don't.
in case.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do
Oh
it.
god. Oh god.
Ugh.
Okay. So that happened.
We'll cut that off the off the podcast.
No,
That's
I
not.
think
I'm not.
it-
I'm not
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
the time to edit that out. That's not gonna. That's not gonna happen.
People watch this, and they're like 4 of them. Yeah.
We'll just leave that hanging there like a corpse on a gibbet.
People watch this. I don't know. Maybe a human and a bunch
A
of
human.
robots will.
Probably robots.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
So
In
they'll be
the
like,
future,
"Ooh,
if
good
AI
idea."
is, depending on where AI goes, we could be making a show that AI appreciates right now. Right. That could be our
That
audience.
assumes that they have feelings.
We don't know. I don't
Unless
know.
they develop
I don't even know that
actual
you have
feelings,
feelings.
we're in trouble. I can't tell if that was just a directed insult toward me.
No.
Goodness.
She
well, I mean-
doesn't.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right? Like we don't like the entertainment scene was drastically different. Heck, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and that's within our lifetime, right? We don't know where we'll be 10 years from now.
There's never
Maybe we will all be making entertainment for AIs because we got to keep them happy and because they're all working the crap jobs that nobody wants to do. So got to keep the AI happy by dancing for them, right? Who knows? Maybe that'll be our time to shine.
Hey, if I can get AI to clean my house, I'll entertain them. That's fine. I'm cool with that.
So let's circle back a little bit to the streaming for fun thing because I think that's like the little bit of it. There's some advice in there we could give people about streaming in general, maybe from more of a personal perspective. Like, what do you guys do? We'll start with Pickles because I want to. I'm curious because he's the one that's taken like a pretty long break recently, and also
Hefty,
seems to like be unaffected by it. So maybe you just tell us.
seemingly.
Seemingly. Well, yeah, I
I
don't know.
don't. Okay, so you said I don't have feelings.
No, I said I don't know for sure that you have feelings.
This
Well,
guy,
cle-
this guy
clearly-
right here.
I
clearly-
don't know
Yeah.
anyone has feelings. All I know is my own feelings.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah.
This is some sort of weird, like
It's all an
Plato's
assumption.
cave allegory, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, when you guys were kids, you all thought
What
like
are
maybe everyone
feelings?
else is like fake and you're the only one that's real. Like,
I've never thought that in my
no,
life.
you didn't.
Yes, you have.
Never.
You
Not
absolutely have.
once?
That's a developmental thing. You just.
I
don't
mean,
remember.
I think
okay,
all
well,
humans at one point go. Am I the
simulation
only one
theory.
that's
I-
real?
I've never like consciously acknowledged that. If I felt that it was autopiloting, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's solipsism. There's, and you have object permanence. Like you develop object permanence later on in life, and some people with ADHD actually still struggle with it even in adulthood. So like, if it doesn't exist, if you can't see it physically, it no longer exists because the only thing in your reality is what you are observing directly and feeling directly. So yes, 100% is something that you you develop. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And we all have a
Like
shared
the-
reality.
Every
for sure.
time HylianPickles goes offline, I just forget that he exists.
See, that's like actually how I feel, but like from the other perspective. Like if I'm not actively involved somewhere, I just assume I don't exist in their life.
Schrodinger's pickles.
Schrodinger.
Yeah, that's me.
Pickles permanence.
All right, so Highland Pickles, tell us about what it's been like to be on a break and how you come back to streaming.
How did you regain object permanence?
What did you do? Like, did you cheerlead? Do you have a cheerleader being like in your head or like in your life that's like, go Highland Pickles?
No, it was something I just found. What's the word? I guess value. I'll just say value. I found value in streaming.
Mhm.
Like, it was creatively fulfilling, and so not doing it for so long just made me want to do it some more.
Yeah.
And like I knew when I came back, the first stream back would be bigger than any of the following ones for a while, and then after that, just getting back to where I was just consistency,
Mhm.
and that's kind of. I mean, like I mentally prepped myself for that already, so that was never a problem for me. So I've just started and kept going again.
This is
and
a
there
key.
was
This is a really good point, right? Like finding value. That's how I get myself to go to the gym and like get myself to go to the gym more. Like it's not every time I'm in the sauna or I'm like lifting weights, it's hard. But like for some reason, I get it in my head that I like doing this, or like I want to do this, and as long as I stay there, it's easy. It's like easy.
Sonny, you think that the sauna is hard?
Oh, it is. It's hard for me with what I got going on. It is hard for me. Yeah.
It's just you don't like it, like being warm and
No, I get
sweaty, or-
lightheaded, and being lightheaded is
Drink more
not.
water. That's not.
No, it's whatever's going on. With,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
the heat,
goodness.
you're sensitive to the heat.
yeah, well, that's a whole other discussion.
Well,
yeah. Okay. I
I
was just
think
like
what-
the sauna's supposed to be like
15
the reward
minutes
at the
in, I'm
end.
like, if I just move a little bit, I'm like, oh, okay, I should get out of here because
I think
I'm gonna pass. out.
Pickles brings up a really good point, though. Is like it's the thing. No matter how long your break, right? No matter how long the break, you do have to mentally prepare yourself for that initial comeback, right? That initial hit of dopamine, that initial viewer count is going to be bigger than everything else for a while.
It may
It's
not,
gonna
but
level
it
off
could
and,
be.
you know.
Yeah, it's
and-
definitely
and
gonna
then-
roll off.
If you have an established community,
Yeah.
it likely will be. Yes.
Yeah.
Likely.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we're
I'm-
talking
obviously
like you
anything can
normally have
happen, but-
10, then the next stream you'll probably have 8 or 7
Yep.
or 6.
7 and 6, but then it'll even out eventually, and then it'll go back up slowly and go down slowly because no one knows what makes it go up and down. It's like the economy.
Well, and you have
you
to
try
remember
stuff
about
till you find stuff
timing.
that works.
Yeah, like you always have to prepare yourself to know, like, okay, during the summer, you're
Yeah.
gonna have usually a smaller viewer pool, just because people like to, see the sun or something. I don't know when it's summer. So you always have to remember like where your viewership is, but also the time of year and how those types of things can affect it too. So coming back in the summer is gonna probably be a bit more disappointing if numbers are part of your value system.
But also,
Sure.
like, during the summer is probably when you're gonna, the crowd that doesn't go to college or school, whatever, right? And during the fall, that's gonna drop off because they have other stuff to do. Or if you just know that there's a certain season where you get more views,
Yeah.
you then have to prepare yourself for that. Hey, once that's over, I am gonna drop back down, right? Or like, if you're playing a certain game, for example, or doing a certain thing on stream, not even just a game, there's things that are going to give you a bump, and then you're gonna parse higher, as it were. But then once you move on to something else, you're gonna drop back down a bit. Sonny's laughing because he knows what that term
I
means.
just
but
imagine like a website for Twitch logs and like
for Twitch logs, yeah.
you're
World of
checking
Twitch
your
logs,
parses.
yeah. I gotta parse that 98, yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think actually that might help, right? But everybody's going to be great parsing, so a lot to work on.
This is apparently going over my head. I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah, it's
about.
okay. MMO.
Am I
We'll,
supposed
we'll
to?
explain later. Don't worry about it.
It is
Okay,
video
yeah,
game
explain it
stuff.
to me
but
later.
It's like it's like when people talk about speed running. It's like I'm listening to a different language. Yeah. So I think the most important thing that HylianPickles, Schrodinger Pickles said was you have to find a good value in what you're like. That there's a motivation built into seeing a value, and the value he pointed out was not reliant on the audience, right? It was reliant on something that he wanted to get out of the situation, like the freedom to express his creativity, and I don't know, it like allows him to tap into something that he can't get unless he goes live. And I think finding value there is actually probably the best for it, right?
And that should really be with anything, right? No matter what you're doing, you should hopefully find some value in it. But like, yeah, especially when it comes to endeavors where there is what I like to call a heavy emotional investment, right? Because that's what streaming is. Streaming is a very heavy emotional investment, right? It's inherently a social thing, and so if you're not finding value and you're not finding happiness or at least content, if you're at least not content with what you're producing, then yeah, you're not going to feel great about it. You're just not.
I think,
So-
I think go ahead.
We just tend to do better with things if we have an intrinsic motivation, right? If there's something internal about what you personally get out of it regardless of the things outside of you. Finding your if you're able to find your intrinsic motivation for something, you are so much more likely to be successful at it than if all of your motivation is extrinsic, for sure.
I
100%.
think
And you're going to be more likely to be able to weather any hardships that
Yeah.
pop up because you're like Meats mentioned earlier. If you're holding on to that that slim hope that you're going to make it one day and you're going to be big and you're going to be famous and all that, right? That's going to allow you to get past some barriers that otherwise might cause you to take a permanent hiatus, as it were.
The biggest difficulty for a lot of people is the viewership, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
if your chat is dead and you have no viewers, then sometimes even if you have a really good reason to be live for you, the fact that there is no chat or that no one's like hanging out with you, that can make you feel like that can override the other values that you might be pulling out of being live.
Well, it's all about perspective and resilience too, though. I mean, if you're saying, "Hey, I have a VOD," even if no one shows up, I can pull clips from this. I can evaluate
Good point.
myself.
Good point.
There's a value to streaming regardless of the viewership.
Good
If
point.
you're able to find that, if you're able to define that yourself, then everything will be easier. Everything will feel better than you just staring at the numbers and getting all of the value from streaming from those numbers. So, I mean, that's for anyone who's struggling. When you come back from your break, find your intrinsic value, create your intrinsic value, and use that as your motivator. The
Yeah.
other stuff is just cake.
So
I think sort of what Artyom was saying in chat as well, like about how it can be difficult because you feel like you're not at your, to quote, final form, right? The thing about streaming and really all entertainment, but the thing about streaming especially is you have to be able to capitalize on any opportunity that's given. So you have to stream as if you're streaming to a huge audience. You have to stream as if you're going to be you have to stream as if you are successful. Every time you boot up, you have to be ready to seize whatever opportunity comes along. So yeah, you have to stream like people are watching.
right. So
I would also argue though that you should never have a final form in mind.
true.
yeah,
We've
I
talked
agree.
about that. There is no
Yeah.
final form.
There should never be one.
'Cause
You
if
should
you're
have
done,
something that you'd
then
like to do.
What's going to be fresh about your stream?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, just really thinking about like not
okay to
having
have
true.
goals.
It's good to have goals, but certainly not having like, well, once I get X, things will be better. Because then you're
Yeah.
going to keep doing that and get disappointed.
Well, it's also like a stream has to be something that constantly grows and evolves with culture and times and technology. You're not going to buy a computer and be done. You have to buy like a new computer every 5-6 years.
Well, and I think that's what it is. The quote unquote final form should be something that's amorphous a bit and can be molded and has to change, right? Because once you've hit it, you've got to be able to move on to the next thing, right? Once you reach this milestone that you've set for yourself, you got to have more milestones.
I also
Because
think
otherwise, you're just sitting there.
there is kind of a final form though that you can kind of try to obtain for yourself, which might be like just that well-rounded approach to everything, so that you don't get defeated by low view count, no chat, and things like there is a space that you can kind of put yourself into that might be a good place to live mentally, psychologically, so that you are healthy as a streamer, and that your priorities are in the right space. But the stream itself always has to kind of be a thing that is amorphous and flexible.
Yep, I agree. Yep, it's what I like to refer to streaming as a skill, right? Very few people are born with an intrinsic knowledge of
Well,
how
like
to
art?
entertain people, right? Yeah, you got to practice. It's a muscle. You got to work it.
Yeah,
So-
there's like no matter how much you have an innate skill level, coming into anything, sports, art,
You got to practice. You got to keep
singing.
yeah,
Yeah, you got to make it. You got to make it even better, right?
streaming muscle. Yeah,
Yeah, you got to build the streaming muscles.
gotta keep it
right.
nice and muscly.
There is a lot to be said in the comparison between like exercise and like an exercise routine and good practices in other areas of your life. Like,
Sure.
because the thing about exercise is it builds discipline. And you know what? If you can build discipline around streaming, you could probably build discipline around exercise. Like,
And vice versa. Yeah,
yeah.
no, absolutely.
yeah,
And that's true for anything, right? If if you're a musician, right? For
True.
example, and you
True.
practice every day, then streaming is the same way. Every time you boot up your stream, you're practicing streaming.
that's a good way to
right?
look at it. Actually, I think that's kind of the language what we've been trying to reach around this.
I can't come out tonight, guys. I have stream
I
practice
had to-
in my garage.
That's a good way to look at it, though, too. I think a lot of people, if they go live and then immediately don't have success, it takes 2 hours for someone to talk to them. They feel like they wasted 2 hours or this isn't working. But if you look at it like band practice or exercise, it's a lot more is going on than just, your initial success that you're trying to reach for. So,
Yep.
Great discussion. That's the podcast, everybody.
Wait, it's over? Okay.
Yeah. We'll end it there. Short and sweet, right?
We're not doing a summary.
over.
Usually do like a roundabout
Okay,
summary.
I think that was the summary. No,
That
I don't think
kind of
we-
rounds
yeah,
us out
yeah.
nicely. I feel like, yeah.
All right, we'll see everybody in the next episode. We'll hang out a little bit in the chat for those of you who can. We hang out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Infinite Quality Live. You can check out our website, infinitequality.live. We have a Discord.
Discord.
Join the Discord and go ahead, Meets.
Don't forget